Alright, it's time for the Walking Dead Season 4 finale. This is literally just entitled A, as in the letter A. So, and I thought that was interesting, so I don't get the symbolism behind that, I'll throw that out there right now, but this was a Rick, Carl Michonne heavy episode. So, I missed like the first 5 minutes of the episode, or the first thing right before the title sequence comes up, and so I think what happens is they show that Terminus, it's not what it looks like, and so and then they could probably kind of leave it at that. And so when we get to the main bulk of the story, we see Rick, Carl, and Michonne are making their way toward Terminus, and they're staying kind of in areas and Rick's still kind of in his mindset of trying to be a good father, in which he's showing Carl how to trap animals and things like that. So, and so they're heading toward Terminus, and they stop by a car, and Carl's sleeping in the car, and Michonne and Rick are outside, and then the bandits show up, and Daryl, in which at first the bandits, they have Michonne and Rick at gunpoint, and the one guy's like kind of guarding Carl in the thing, and they want to kill him because Rick killed their friend Louie. He strangled him to death, and so he's like, okay, we're gonna have to, we're gonna kill you. And Daryl shows up, and he tries to stop him. He's telling him, hey, take it out on me, because they're good people. And so they beat up on Daryl, and they're threatening Carl, and then Rick kind of snaps. And first he kind of just headbutts the guy behind him, and then he gets up, and when him and the guy are fighting, the guy gets him like a bear hug, and he says, what's he gonna do? And at that point, Rick just kind of bites him right at his artery in the neck and just rips flesh out, and the guy bleeds to death. And then Michonne grabs her hostage guy's gun, shoots two people, and Daryl knocks a guy out and kicks his head in. And the other guy who was threatening Carl has him at knife point. But then Rick grabs a knife and just walks up to him, just, no hesitation. The guy kind of gets scared, and then Rick just kind of brutally stabs him to death, much to Carl's horror. And so the next morning, it's Carl and Michonne are sleeping in the car, and Daryl was out, I guess, looking for food, and Rick's kind of come to terms that he can't hide his brutality. He has to thrive on it. This is what he has to do to survive. The prison, that was fine because that was a different environment. This is a completely different world. They have to do it this way, and I thought that was cool. So the four of them, they make their way to Terminus, and they're walking around the outside, and Michonne explains that she was a monster, because she let her boyfriend and his friend turn, and then led them around like pets, and then she said, don't be afraid of me or Rick, we can come back. And then Carl's like, I still have these thoughts, I might be a monster too. So they're all, nobody's completely sane, which, in this kind of a world, it's almost known. So they sneak in, and it seems like they're warmly welcomed at first, and then the people in charge of Terminus, they say, put your guns down and we're going to search you. And I was like, oh, this isn't going to end well. And then after they search them, they give them their guns back. And so I was like, so then there was the brief moment of, okay, maybe this place is good. And then when you walk outside, you start seeing lots of things. You see a bag that looks familiar. It kind of looks like Sasha's bag. You see a poncho. The poncho looks really familiar. You see the riot gear. The riot gear is kind of obvious. The riot gear was Glenn's. There's and a pocket watch. Which I'm not sure who's that belonged to, but there's some stuff. And so basically, Rick pulls the guy at gunpoint, and it leads to a shootout with the people of Terminus. And it turns out the people of Terminus I believe they're cannibals. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that. I kind of missed that part, but I believe they're cannibals. And so, Rick and Daryl, Carl and Michonne are running through the complex, and they end up in a courtyard, and they're completely surrounded. And they're told to put their weapons down and go into a train car. And they do willingly. They begrudgingly go into the train car. And then when they get in the train car, they realize that everybody else is in there. Everybody except for Beth, Carol, and Tyrese. Because Carol and Tyrese hadn't made it yet, and we don't know what happened to Beth. I assume with Beth that it's gonna, maybe they're kind of playing it off like how Merle disappeared for an entire season, and then they brought him back. So I think that's what they're kind of doing with her. And Carol and Tyrese are probably not too far behind. So I mean, they'll probably show up at the beginning of the next season. But, and it's at least the end of the future part of the episode. Now, scattered throughout the episode are flashbacks to sometime in between the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, where Rick is learning to let go of his brutality. And it has Herschel, and Herschel showing him that how to be a farmer. And so then Rick shows Carl, and they're trying to put the brutality aside. And so, one, it was cool to see Herschel again. It was really cool to see Scott Wilson again, because he's a great character, and it's really nice. And it's kind of like a thing where it's a stark contrast where Rick's learning that, at least in that environment, he didn't have to be brutal and almost a killer, but now he kind of has to be. And so then in the train car, they're like, they're messing with the wrong people. So I guess they're, probably the beginning of season 5, they're going to break out. And I think that's really cool. So, the whole theme behind this episode is changing. And the whole theme behind this half of the season is changing. Everybody changes. Everybody changes. Everybody accepts who they are, and they kind of go through changes as a character. And it's really cool how all these changes happen. And I don't know, it's a really great half of the season. I really like it. I like how a lot of the characters got a lot more focus. Characters like Beth didn't really get a huge focus the last part of the season. Glenn was out of commission for a good portion of the previous season. It's just like there wasn't a whole lot of focus on a lot of characters. I feel like a lot of focus was put on like Carol and Tyrese and Rick and Daryl, but the characters like that. There was a lot of focus put on them, but I feel like it was nice and evenly spread out the way they did it. So this is just, I think, a phenomenal season. It might even be, I don't know if it beats season 3. Season 3 I thought was pretty good, but it's a great season. I think even the first half was really good. I like the kind of the contrasting images where it's like, the first half of the season is we're not too far gone, and then in a way to kind of almost mirror that, this half of the season is you can't be too far gone. You kind of have to go far, So in order to survive. And so all in all, it's a great episode. I'd recommend it to any Walking Dead fan. I'd recommend this TV series to anybody. I mean, a lot of people say it's 53 minutes of people arguing, and occasionally it's an hour of people arguing, and sometimes zombies show up. But if it was just all people killing zombies endlessly, I would watch it. Nobody would watch it. There'd be one season, and then it'd be done. It's cool because it takes these almost real-life situations, what you almost have to deal with, but then accentuates them to an extreme. And I just think that's really cool. So, definitely check it out. Watch this review, watch all our other reviews, and, yeah. I'll see you guys later.